Welcome back! My name is Baller Scuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1986. Today, we're going to talk about Trinity. The story of Trinity takes us back to Infocom. We have talked about Infocom several times before. They have been responsible for Zork, Deadline, and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We last talked about Infocom in our video on Wishbringer. For Trinity, Infocom turned to Brian Moriarty. We have talked about Brian Moriarty before. He was responsible for Wishbringer. Moriarty had actually already written the story for Trinity in 1983, a year before joining Infocom. He proposed the story to the company, but Infocom felt the game was too large for their game engine. After completing Wishbringer, Moriarty returned to working on Trinity in May 1985. He would research the history of nuclear weapons, even to the point of visiting the Trinity test site in Los Alamos, New Mexico, in hopes of getting the geography of the area as accurate as possible. Infocom eventually agreed to create the game. Trinity is an interactive fiction game. It uses the same Z-Machine game engine as the other Infocom interactive fiction games we have played. The player starts the game controlling a character on the final days of a London vacation in Kensington Gardens. The game, of course, complicates from there. Infocom released Trinity to American computers on May 9th, 1986. That is a brief backstory to Trinity. With that told, it's time to look at the physical items that come with the game, known as Feelies. Trinity comes with a comic book named The Illustrated Story of the Atom Bomb, which is listed as part of the Quest for Knowledge series. The cover shows a diagram of an atom bomb with a mushroom cloud in the background. It reads, "The atom, friend or foe. Within the tiny atom lies a tremendous power. This power first entered the modern world as a means of destruction, unleashing a terrible fury on countless thousands. But like any great force, the atom can also be used to serve man. Atomic power plants provide clean, dependable energy. Nuclear-powered submarines glide beneath the North Pole. Numerous lives are saved by radiation treatment, and radioisotopes analyze soil, plants, and animals to help increase food production around the world. Atomic facts, stranger than fiction. If you wanted to make a necklace of atoms 25 inches long and strung them together at the rate of 1 atom per second, it would take over 200 years to complete the strand. A drop of water contains 6 septillion atoms. There are 25 septillion atoms in a breath of air. Atoms travel all around the world, and even through outer space. With each breath, you inhale atoms that were once a part of great men, such as Leonardo da Vinci, celestial objects such as Halley's Comet, and nuclear explosions such as the Trinity test. The year is 1939. The free world watches with growing alarm as the shadow of Nazi Germany spreads across Europe, led by the man who will one day be known as history's greatest villain. The master race will prevail. Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil! In January, the great Danish physicist Niels Bohr comes to Washington, D.C. The Germans have split the atom. My God. Incredible. If Hitler builds an atom bomb, nothing will stop him. The world will be plunged into 1,000 years of darkness. We must be the first. The scientists draft an urgent letter to the president. We're unknown immigrants. Roosevelt will never listen to us. Will you sign our letter? The next panel shows Albert Einstein signing the letter. President Roosevelt decides to take immediate steps. This requires action. And not a moment too soon. Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. The Army appoints Colonel Leslie R. Groves, the man who built the Pentagon, to head the atom bomb project. If you do the job right, it can win the war. We'll make you a brigadier general. It is my patriotic duty. I accept. On December 2nd, 1942, scientists at the University of Chicago, led by Enrico Fermi, produced the world's first atomic chain reaction. The reaction is self-sustaining. It works. Now we can make nuclear fuel for the bomb. A secret laboratory is set up in the mountains of New Mexico to design and build the new weapon. I'll get you anything you need. Men, money, materials. Will you do it? Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer becomes director of Los Alamos. It's my patriotic duty. I accept. Oppenheimer and his fellow scientists work long and hard to make the atom bomb a reality. Plutonium will make a bigger explosion. It'll never work. Let's stick with uranium. There's no time to argue. Try both. Oppie, did you hear the news? Not now, Kitty. We're so close. After 2 years, the bomb is almost ready. Here's an isolated place, but we still need a code name for the test. Let's call it Trinity. A 100-foot steel tower is erected in the New Mexico desert, miles from the nearest town. What do they call this place anyway? Jornada del Muerto, the journey of death. The gadget is in a shack at the top of the tower. Final assembly takes place in a deserted ranch house nearby. Hand me that screwdriver. It'll never work. In the pre-dawn hours of July 16th, 1945, VIPs from all over the country gather on a hillside 20 miles from the tower. This suntan lotion will protect us from atomic rays. I must be alert. The Russians will want a detailed account. Key personnel hide in an underground bunker only 5 miles south of Ground Zero. Keep those jeeps running. If the atmosphere catches fire, we'll have to get out of here fast. The tension is almost unbearable. 0 minus 20 minutes. Keep an eye on him. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. The next 2 panels show the explosion and the mushroom cloud. The war is over. Truman and Churchill are jubilant with the news. It's the second coming in wrath. The Japs will have no choice but to surrender, and America will prevail. On August 6, 1945, an American B-29 bomber exacts a terrible vengeance on the city of Hiroshima. Bomb away. It's my patriotic duty. Nagasaki meets the same fate 3 days later. I hear an airplane. Truman addresses the world after VJ Day. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. But the American monopoly on A-bombs is short-lived. Ready to test, comrade. Our spies did their job well. It'll never work. America is shocked by the news. The world will be plunged into 1,000 years of darkness. Our national security is in jeopardy. But Dr. Edward Teller is a man with the vision. If we find a way to fuse hydrogen, we can build a super bomb. Impossible. It would require a temperature of millions of degrees. I can provide such temperatures. November 1st, 1952, on a remote island in the South Pacific. It's all set to go. Let's get out of here. It'll never work. Teller's H-bomb is born. Today, underground tests help us to build more and better nuclear weapons. 4, 3, 2, 1. Our scientific know-how helps us to defend the free world behind an orbiting umbrella of high technology. We could intercept and destroy strategic ballistic missiles before they reached our own soil. We could intercept and destroy strategic ballistic missiles before they reached our own soil. It'll never work. Now that America's new space defense system is in place, the entire planet is safe from the threat of atomic war. It's Peter Pan, dear, the boy who would not grow up. Our children can live secure in the knowledge that these thousands and thousands of obsolete missiles built in the old days of mutual fear and distrust will never need to be used. The end. Also included with the game is a picture of the plaque on the Trinity Site National Historical Landmark. Underneath is a quote from William L. Lawrence, an eyewitness, that reads, "On that moment hung eternity. Time stood still. Space contracted to a pinpoint. It was as though the earth had opened and the skies split. One felt as though he had been privileged to witness the birth of the world." Trinity also comes with a kit to make a sundial out of paper. It reads, "Sundial. Man first conceptualized time as consisting of only 2 units, day and night. Then came the understanding that daytime could be separated into smaller units marked by the shadows cast by the sun on its path from sunrise to sunset. The sundial evolved as a means of indicating the passage of time according to these units." There are then instructions on how to make the sundial with the kit. One side of the sundial itself is full of symbols and depictions of angels. Near the bottom of this side is the Latin phrase tempus edax rerum, which means devouring time. The other side of the sundial has a poem by Emily Dickinson. It reads, "Look back on time with kindly eyes. He doubtless did his best. How softly sinks that trembling sun in human nature's west." Trinity also comes with a set of instructions on how to make an origami crane with a piece of paper to do it. The game also comes with a map of the Trinity site, listed as Project TR, with a list of officers and floor plans of the ranch house. The back of the box has an introduction to the story. It starts with a quote from Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 5. "The time is out of joint, O cursed spite that ever I was, born to set it right. It's the last day of your $599 London vacation. Unfortunately, it's also the first day of World War III. Only seconds remain before an H-bomb vaporizes the city, and you with it. Unless you escape to another time, another dimension. For every atomic explosion unlocks the door to a secret universe, a plane between fantasy and reality, filled with curious artifacts and governed by its own mischievous logic. You'll crisscross time and space as you explore this fascinating universe, learning to control its inexorable power. Trinity leads you on a journey back to the dawn of the atomic age and puts the course of history in your hands." There is also a preface to the story presented in the game's manual. It reads, "You're neither an adventurer nor a professional thrill seeker. You're simply an American tourist in London, enjoying a relaxing stroll through the famous Kensington Gardens. When World War III starts and the city is vaporized moments after the story begins, you have no hope of survival. Unless you enter another time, another place, another dimension. Escaping the destruction of London is not the end of your problems, but rather the beginning of new, more bizarre riddles. You'll find yourself in an exotic world teeming with giant fly traps, strange creatures, and other inconveniences. Time and space will behave with their own intricate and mischievous logic. You'll visit fantastic places and acquire curious objects as you seek to discover the logic behind your newfound universe. And if you can figure out the pattern of events, you'll wind up in the New Mexico desert minutes before the culmination of the greatest scientific experiment of all time, the world's first atomic explosion, codenamed Trinity. Those are the physical items that come with the game. With those explored, it's time to play the game for ourselves. And here we are in the game. This is Trinity. Although it doesn't really tell us much here, we do see copyright 1986 by Infocom, and then we can press a key to begin. No intro yet, but several games have done that to us before. They did give me an option of color or no color. I like it without color. I don't like the blue background that the color does. But they have teased this enough. Let's get into it. Let's play Trinity. We're at the Palace Gate. Sharp words between the superpowers. Tanks in East Berlin. And now reports the BBC, rumors of a satellite blackout. It's enough to spoil your continental breakfast. but the world will have to wait. This is the last day of your $599 London getaway package, and you're determined to soak up as much of that authentic English ambiance as you can. So you've left the tour bus behind, ditched the camera, and escaped to Hyde Park for a contemplative stroll through the Kensington Gardens. And we're now at the Palace Gate. A tide of perambulators surges north along the crowded Broad Walk. Shaded glades stretch away to the northeast, and a hint of color marks the western edge of the Flower Walk. Alright, first thing that we do in games like this is we turn on verbose. If you haven't played a game like this before, verbose will allow us to get more details, which is what we're looking for all the time. Maximum verbosity is turned on, and we get the same thing that we got before. Okay. I think I want to do I to start. You're not holding anything, but you're wearing a wristwatch. You also have a credit card and a 7-sided coin in your pocket. 7-sided coin. Interesting. So yeah, I is inventory. Let's go ahead and look at that watch. Your wristwatch says it's 3:30 p.m. on the dot. How convenient. We'll take the coin. You take the 7-sided coin out of your pocket, and we'll take a look at that coin. It's standard British currency worth 50 pence. Not up to date on my pence, but apparently it's a 7-sided coin. We'll go east from here then. The east wind makes it difficult to walk straight, but we've made it to the Flower Walk. Gaily colored flower beds line the walks, bending north and west, filling the air with a gentle fragrance. A little path leads northwest between the trees. You can see a soccer ball half hidden among the blossoms. The spires of the Albert Memorial are all too visible to the south. Passing tourists hoot with laughter at the dreadful sight. Nannies hide their faces and roll quickly away. Apparently Albert Memorial is not that great. We will examine it, though. What's everybody laughing at here? Your London guidebook warned you that the Albert Memorial was ugly, but nothing could have prepared you for this embarrassing spectacle. But is it representative of Albert? That's the question. We'll take a look at some other things now. There's some blossoms around here. There's a soccer ball in there, right? You can see a soccer ball half hidden among the blossoms. We'll go ahead and take that. And hooray, your score just went up by 1 point. The total is now 1 out of 100. 1% there. Note you can turn score notifications on or off anytime with the notify command. We'll leave it on. It's handy. It's good to know. All right, now that we got the ball, we can go northwest to the Wabe. This grassy clearing is only 20 feet across and perfectly circular. Paths wander off in many directions through the surrounding thicket. A shaft of golden sunlight falls across a handsome antique sundial erected at the exact center of the clearing. All right, let's take a look at that sundial. And the Wabe is the grass plot round a sundial, I suppose, said Alice, surprised at her own ingenuity. Of course it is. It's called Wabe, you know, because it goes a long way before it and a long way behind it. From Lewis Carroll. All right, the perimeter of the sundial is inscribed with 7 curious symbols and a compass rose with the legend Tempus Edax Rerum. That's what I'm going with. I do not speak Latin. Emblazoned across the bottom. We have already talked about that one before. A triangular gnomon casts a finger-like shadow that is creeping slowly towards the first symbol. Let's take a look at that gnomon there. It's a triangular piece of metal about a 1/4 inch thick and 4 inches long, screwed into the center of the sundial, as the quote from Lewis Carroll just goes away. Let's go ahead and unscrew that. We're just going to mess with stuff in a public park as a foreigner. Surely this will go well. You can feel the gnomon getting more and more wobbly as you unscrew it. Is it gnomon? Either way. A final twist and it falls with a clatter onto the face of the sundial. We're going to go ahead and take it. Boom, 5 more points our way. You take it off the sundial. Let's go northwest from here. Back to the Broad Walk. A brooding statue of Queen Victoria faces east, where the waters of the round pond sparkle in the afternoon sun. Your eyes follow the crowded Broad Walk north and south until its borders are lost amid the bustle of perambulators. Small paths curve northeast and southeast between the trees. A cloud of pigeons fills the air. They circle overhead and congregate around a nearby bench where an aged woman is selling bags of crumbs. Feed the birds, 30p, her voice quavers with heartbreak. Okay, she doesn't want that, I guess. Yeah, I don't really want to do this, but it's what I'm supposed to do. We're going to examine the woman. You get the feeling that she's been selling crumbs on this same bench year after year since well before you were born. Her face is lined with care for her feathered charges who perch on her round shoulders without fear. Let's look at the pigeons then. The pigeons stare back at you hungrily. She's got the food. All right, we'll buy the bag. Another point for us. With the 7-sided coin, by the way. Bless you, coos the bird woman, taking your money with a practiced snatch. 20p's the change. She holds out a bag of crumbs and a small coin for you. There's a 20 pence coin. Good. Take your bag and change, governor. All right, we will take the bag and the coin. Got those. And then we can feed the birds. Yes, with the bag of crumbs. You take a handful of crumbs out of the bag, they fall between your fingers and tumble across the ground. As the wild birds gobble down the crumbs, a glint of red catches your eye. Frowning, you stoop down for a closer look and gasp with astonishment. The ruby at your feet is bigger than a walnut, with finely cut facets that sparkle with crimson fire. It must have been in the bag of crumbs. 30p a bag. We're going to go ahead and take that. As you reach down to touch the ruby, a very large bird races out from behind a tree. It snatches away the ruby with its beak, zigzags through a group of tourists, and disappears to the east. If you didn't know better, you'd swear that bird was a roadrunner. Not in England. It's time, shrieks the bird woman. The east wind softens to a whisper and dies away. Blowing leaves settle to the ground and the trees are still. Then a fresh gust blows in from the west. Well, so much for that. So what do you know about this Roadrunner? We haven't talked about Looney Tunes yet, but it's around. Is there a coyote I can borrow? Also, what's a Roadrunner doing in London? Bird woman giggles. Fast, ain't he? Yes. What do you know about the ruby? The bird woman gives you a sad smile. Not to worry, dear, she sighs. You'll get it back by and by. What? Okay, let's go ahead and follow the bird east. Feed the hungry birds, cries the bird woman. We've made it to the round pond. Ducks and swans bob on the sparkling surface of the round pond. They share the water with an impressive fleet of toy boats, directed by the excited shouts of children. Crowded paths radiate from the pond in many directions. The large bird you saw before is here. You catch a glimpse of the ruby in its beak as it races between the wheels of a perambulator and disappears to the east. Okay, let's go ahead and examine the boats. The toy boats are crafted of paper and sticks. They bob freely among the wild birds who can barely conceal their outrage. One of the toy boats on the round pond catches your eye. The west wind blows it closer, and you realize that the white sails are actually wings. It's a folded paper bird floating just within reach. So already we've gotten a couple of the feelies in the game, the sundial, and now the origami crane. We'll go ahead and take the bird. There we go. You lean over the edge of the round pond and pluck the paper bird out of the water. We got 3 more points, 10% there. Making progress. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at that bird. The paper bird is skillfully folded from a piece of paper. Something is written between the folds. Let's go ahead and Open the bird? That's not a thing I thought I would say. You gently open the paper bird to its full size, and then we will read the paper. The words long water, 4 o'clock are scrawled on the piece of paper. All right, well, let's get to long water by 4 o'clock. Isn't World War III supposed to start soon? We made it to the Black Lion Gate. Nannies and tourists hurry through the Lancaster Gate to join the perambulators rolling south down the broad walk. Less crowded paths wind east along an iron fence and southeast between the trees. A careless nanny has left her perambulator unattended. Let's examine the pram. It looks as if the perambulator is closed. All right, so let's open it and look. I think I have to do look it in. Is that right? You see nothing unusual in the perambulator. Just a little bit of weird math in terms of words in order to do anything with that. All right, let's push the pram east. And we've made it to the Inverness Terrace. Crowded walkways lead east and west along an iron fence. Narrow paths wander south into the gardens. A young boy sits nearby, listening to a pair of headphones and idly blowing soap bubbles. There's a dish full of soapy water by his side. The perambulator rolls to a stop. The boy dips the bubble wand in the dish and swishes it around. We'll examine the boy. Could we use better phrasing, please? Oh, quote from Alexander Pope. Atoms or systems into ruin hurled, and now a bubble burst, and now a world. The boy pulls the bubble wand out of the dish, puts it to its lips, and blows a big soap bubble. The boy snaps his fingers to the headphone music as the soap bubble bursts with a flabby pop. Let's push the pram east again. Now we've made it to the Lancaster Gate. A crooked old tree shades the perambulators as they roll south down the Lancaster Walk. Shady paths lead west along an iron fence and southwest between the trees. The perambulator rolls to a stop. There's an old woman under the tree, struggling to open an umbrella. The stiff west wind isn't making it easier for her. Once again, we need better terms, but this is... examine her. Just, watch what she does, basically. Her face is wrong. What do you mean? You look a little closer and shudder to yourself. The entire left side of her head is scarred with deep red lesions, twisting her oriental features into a hideous mask. She must have been in an accident or something. I don't like anything about what I've just read. A strong gust of wind snatches the umbrella out of the old woman's hands and sweeps it into the branches of the tree. The woman circles the tree a few times, gazing helplessly upward. That umbrella obviously means a lot to her, for a wistful tear is running down her cheek. But nobody except you seems to notice her loss. After a few moments, the old woman dries her eyes, gives the tree a vicious little kick, and shuffles away down the Lancaster Walk. Hooray. So, I have some theories about this woman already, but let's not go into those because, like I said, I didn't like anything that I heard. We're going to throw the soccer ball at the umbrella, try to get the umbrella. The soccer ball lodges itself in the tree beside the umbrella. The umbrella teeters uncertainly for a moment, then tumbles out of the tree and lands at your feet. We will take the umbrella then. We're being proactive here. As you pick up the umbrella and smooth the wrinkles, you notice a touristy slogan printed around the outside. All prams lead to the Kensington Gardens. And now we're up to 15 points. Okay, let's push the pram south. We're at the Lancaster Walk now. An impressive sculpture of a horse and rider dominates this bustling intersection. The walk continues north and south. Lesser paths curve off in many directions. A broad field of grass, meticulously manicured, extends to the east. Beyond it, you can see the long water glittering between the trees. There's that long water we need to get to. A printed notice is stuck into the grass. The perambulator rolls to a stop. The large bird you saw before is here. You catch a glimpse of the ruby in its beak as it dodges a startled nanny and disappears to the east. So I've seen a roadrunner in real life. I'm from that part of the world where they actually exist. They're not big. They are small. I mean, there's smaller birds, don't get me wrong, but, you know, it's about the size of like a crow, maybe a seagull, but yeah, they're not big. Maybe by London standards. Anyway, we are going to examine the notice here. I'm trying to think, where do they tell us about a notice? Oh, there we go. A printed notice is stuck into the grass. Let's look at that. The words, "Do not walk on the grass," are sternly printed on the notice. Let's go east. As your feet touch the grass, you sense a strange motion around you. Looking down, you watch with horror as the grass begins to ripple and writhe with vegetable indignance. Angry green stalks whip around your legs, pull you to the ground, and drag you kicking and screaming back to the paved surface of the Lancaster Walk. A chorus of offended little voices subsides as you regain your footing. So much for going east. We'll get into the perambulator. With great difficulty and much to the amusement of passers-by, you jam yourself into the unfortunate perambulator. A young couple zooms down the Lancaster Walk on bicycles. You watch them roll across the grass and disappear into the crowd. So yeah, do not walk on the grass, but riding a bike on the grass is apparently fine. I don't understand all the different rules. I don't understand many things, but that's just me. Once we're inside, we want to open the umbrella. The west wind fills the umbrella the moment you open it. You and your perambulator are blown helplessly eastward onto the grass. We solved the puzzle of the grass. You zoom down a long slope, barely missing several trees and boulders. Peering over the top of the perambulator, you see the long water coming closer and closer. Unable to stop and too stupid to let go of the umbrella, that's me, you bravely close your eyes and pinch your nose shut. Crash! We've made it to the long water. You're on a shady path that winds along the western shore of the Longwater. Looking south, you can see the graceful arch of a bridge, and beyond it, the cool expanse of the river Serpentine. A charming statue stands nearby. You see a gnomon, a bag of crumbs, a small coin, a piece of paper, and a broken perambulator here. Painfully, you regain your footing and snap the umbrella shut. All right, we're going to take everything, but obviously not the perambulator. Hooray! The west wind is still. Everything is very quiet. Let's look at the statue that's here. The statue portrays a carefree little boy playing a set of pipes. A gleam overhead catches your eye. Oh dear, a missile is hanging motionless in the sky. Oh dear indeed. Let's look at the missile. The missile isn't completely motionless. It's falling very, very slowly towards the Longwater. Your eyes follow the missile's trajectory downward, where you notice another peculiar phenomenon. It looks like a white door suspended just above the surface of the water. A flock of ravens glides into view. They circle over the Longwater and disappear through the open white door. The missile continues its slow descent. I have a feeling we probably shouldn't be here when the missile lands, but maybe that's just me. Also, missiles typically burst like before they hit the ground. At least that's what I'm told they do now. Maybe they didn't back then. Okay, let's go east. There's a door there on like above the surface of the water, apparently. You wade into the cool dark water. Wading. You're standing knee-deep in the Longwater, not far from the western shore. Looking east, you can see a white door hovering just above the surface. Swans and ducks paddle through the open white door, vanishing without a trace. The missile is only a few dozen yards above the door. A few dozen yards? Who knows what that actually means? It's about a few dozen meters. It's about the same. I think there's 1.1 yards in a meter. But when you're talking a few dozen, it's a few dozen. Let's go through the door, I guess. Sounds like a solution to me. As you wade to the threshold, a familiar roadrunner flutters past. The ruby in its beak gleams enticingly as it slips through the white door. All color abruptly drains from the landscape. Trees, sky, and sun flatten into a spherical shell, with you at the very center. A hissing in your ear becomes a rumble, and then a roar as the walls of the shell collapse inward, faster and faster. This does not sound good. This way, please. You turn, but see no one. This way, the voice urges, be quick. The space around you articulates. Don't know what that means either. No, your mind shudders. That's not a direction. It's a perfectly legitimate direction, retorts the voice with cold amusement. Now, come along. Trinity! And now we get our intro. Trinity, an interactive fantasy, copyright 1986, Infocom. We did it! And now we're in the meadow. Yeah, we've made it to the next section, made it through the introduction. Let's see what the actual game has in store for us. We're in the meadow. You step out of the white door to the meadow. You've discovered a golden meadow, bordered on every side by a dense forest. The air is filled with dragonflies, and the wood echoes with the cry of mourning doves. The door you just stepped from opens into a toadstool of impossible size. Its broad crown towers over your head like a fleshy umbrella. It's not a cloud, right? It's just a normal mushroom. A triangular shadow inches across the ground. Its sharp point is sweeping across the toadstool. The shadow creeps away from the toadstool, and the door in the stem swings shut with a faint creak. You stare in wonder as the door shimmers and fades from view. This has got to be the weirdest text adventure game that we have done to date. Yeah. So this one, they're telling me to do this. I think this does the credits, and this is how they hide it. Let's see what this does. Yeah, there we go. Here's the credits for the game. You can see it's by Brian Moriarty. Lots of testing, packaging, copywriting, project managers, illustrators, photography, but most of it, at least the part that we normally care about, all done by Brian Moriarty. But lots of people had to help with this one. Interactive Fiction Plus development team, Mark Blank, Dave Lebling, and Stu Galley. I believe we talked about the first two, Mark Blank and Dave Lebling, but I don't think we've talked about Stu Galley. At least it doesn't come to mind. Probably didn't make a game, probably just worked behind the scenes. Either way, there are credits. Okay. Let's go ahead and drop a save here. And we will do... And I do LP1, that works. Okay. Let's check our inventory again. You're holding a piece of paper, a small coin, a bag of crumbs, a gnomon, whatever, and an umbrella. I honestly don't know that word. You're wearing a wristwatch and you have a credit card in your pocket. Well, at least I can do that. Let's fold some paper. Your fumbling attempt to fold the paper back into a bird fails. You need the instructions, clearly. A glare lights up the sky. You look up just in time to see a meteor streak overhead. Examine it. By examine, I just kind of mean like look at it. The meteor is moving northeast. The meteor disappears below the horizon. You feel the ground shudder and hear a roar like thunder. Then all is still. Is what I think is happening? We'll have to look. All right, let's put the paper and the coin back in my pocket. And then we'll look at my watch. Does it have accurate time? Your wristwatch's digits are flashing randomly. The shadow inches northward. It's almost out of sight. All right, let's take the card. We'll read the credit card. The credit card is embossed with the usual codes. It expires tomorrow. The edge of the shadow disappears northward. We should already have a replacement. It's going to expire tomorrow. Put card in the pocket. Okay, And then we will go north. And we ascend the gentle hill. All right, we've made it to the summit. The hill you've climbed lies at the southwest edge of a vast wilderness. Towering forests are broken by long tracts of wasteland, rugged plateaus, and marshes shrouded in perpetual mist. A brooding sun fills the distant valleys with a sad, dusty light the color of antique brass. A giant triangle, thousands of feet high, rises above the eastern treetops. Its vertex casts a long shadow across the wood. As your eyes sweep the landscape, you notice more of the giant toadstools. There must be hundreds of them. Some sprout in clusters, others grow in solitude among the trees. Their numbers increase dramatically as your gaze moves westward, until the forest is choked with pale domes. A triangular shadow creeps across the ground. I don't like the sound of the shadow one bit. Let's look at the toadstools further. There we go. I was hitting shift. The toadstools become more numerous as your eyes sweep westward. Yeah, we got told that already. Let's go northeast then, to the south bog. The ground is damp and squishy underfoot, especially along the stream that wanders west and southeast between the black trees. A splintered log lies rotting in the mist at your feet. Its edges flicker with the eerie phosphorescence of decay. Let's look at that log. Its edges flicker with the eerie phosphorescence of decay. I don't know decay well enough to know if it has phosphorescence, but not that I'm aware of. The edge of a shadow moves slowly into view. The shadow inches northward. Once again, like, are we in an alternate reality, like, already? We're not in Lewis Carroll's world, are we? That's scary stuff. We'll take the log. The log crumbles into a heap of damp corruption when you try to move it. Only a big splinter of wood remains. Well, let's look at the splinter of wood then. The splinter is about a foot long. Its edges flicker with the eerie phosphorescence of decay. Take that then. Get me a point. We're doing the right thing. 16 points now. Let's head east to the bottom of the stairs. The triangular structure before you must be thousands of feet high. It divides the sky like a razor, casting a stern, precise shadow over the surrounding landscape. A narrow stairway climbs north up the hypotenuse of the triangle. Ooh, a right triangle. Footpaths converge on the stair from every direction. Let's drop the bag. We don't need that. We'll drop the umbrella. And then we'll go up. With a fearful gulp, you ascend the narrow stairway. Halfway up. The breeze feels noticeably cooler here about halfway to the vertex. The landscape below is gray in the shadow of the triangle. Up again, and we've made it to the vertex. The air grows colder as you continue your ascent. The temperature on this tiny platform is well below freezing, but it isn't just the cold that makes your teeth chatter when you look down that narrow stairway thousands of feet high. Far below, the shadow of the structure stretches across the landscape. From this great altitude, it looks like a dark finger accusing a point on the west horizon. At the center of the platform stands a handsome antique sundial. You see a threaded hole in the dial's face. The circumference is enclosed in a wide brass ring. Well, it's finally time. Let's examine this shadow that's been following me around. The long shadow stretches west across the ground below. Sundial? Il y a une horloge qui ne sonne pas. Qui ne sonne pas. I'm going to just put that into Google Translate. I do speak some French, but a couple of these words I don't know what they mean. Il y a une horloge. There is a clock. Okay, apparently that's a clock. Qui ne sonne pas? That does not ring. Oh, like sonnet. Yeah, okay. I did know sonnet. So yeah, there's a clock that does not ring. The perimeter of the sundial is inscribed with 7 curious symbols and a compass rose with the legend Tempus Edax Rerum emblazoned across the bottom. It's the same sundial. A threaded hole is set into the center of the dial. We're just getting lots of clues here. All right, let's examine the symbols a little bit further. Can ye not discern the signs of the times? Matthew 16:3? That's such a short... That's not the whole verse. It can't be. That's got to be Jesus himself saying that for Matthew. I don't know. It's been a while for me. So the symbols, right? The 7 symbols are arranged in a circle. The series begins with a Greek omega and runs clockwise around the dial, ending with a Greek alpha. So it's backwards. You'll find the symbols reproduced on the sundial in your Trinity package. Hey, you better have put that together. All right, let's examine the compass rose. The compass rose on the dial appears quite ordinary. Let's examine the hole, just inspect this whole thing. The hole has a right-handed thread and is set in the center of the dial. Let's examine the ring. The brass ring fits perfectly around the dial's perimeter. All right, let's put the gnomon that we got before in there. You twist and push the gnomon into the hole on the sundial, but it doesn't seem to fit very well. A quick glance shows the reason why. The thread on the bolt doesn't match the thread in the dial's hole. The brass ring on the sundial rotates with a sudden click. I'm sorry? A sundial that rotates? Like, why did it rotate on its own? Is it powered somehow? All right, we're going to have to leave, so we'll go down, back to halfway down. The breeze feels noticeably warmer here, about halfway to the ground. The landscape below is gray in the shadow of the triangle. We'll go down again, back to the bottom of the stairs. It got warmer again. The triangular structure before you must be thousands of feet high. It divides the sky like a razor, casting a stern, precise shadow over the surrounding landscape. A narrow stairway climbs north up the hypotenuse of the triangle. Footpaths converge on the stair from every direction. You see an umbrella and a bag of crumbs here. I think we're just going to leave those for now. We'll go south to the trellises, a fortress-like wall of arborvitaes. Sure. Stretches east and west through the forest. I shouldn't have to Google things in the middle of it, but yeah, that sounds like trees to me. The only breach is an identical pair of arched trellises. A mountain stream trickles between the trees. There's trees. Paths wander from its bank in many directions. We'll go southwest from here to the arborvitaes, the trees. Barely 18 inches separate the thick walls of arborvitae that tower on either side. They form an uncomfortably narrow corridor that bends sharply to the east and northeast. Let's go east to the arboretum. A spectacular pergola of arborvitaes. Who wrote this? Arches over your... I don't know. Arches over your head like a great green Ferris wheel. Its tangled surfaces are peculiarly twisted, making it difficult to tell where the inside ends and the outside begins. Steep, leafy tunnels curve up into the pergola to the north and south. Other paths lead east and west into the surrounding hedge. An abstract, sparkling sculpture stands between the tunnels. The words Felix Klein, 1849 to 1925, are inscribed on the base. Who? All right, we're going to take the axe. Yeah, they said there was an axe here. I'm at the right spot? No. Going too fast. Examine the sculpture first. Oh, we got a couple. Arthur C. Clarke, very famous. I mean, I haven't been introducing people, but he's kind of one that you probably didn't know. Arthur C. Clarke, he wrote the book for 2001 Space Odyssey. He's a famous science fiction writer. I think we introduced him in one of my videos. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Very famous quote from him. And P. David Lebling, who works at Infocom, any sufficiently arcane magic is indistinguishable from technology. All right, on the sculpture. The sparkling sculpture looks like a crystalline bottle, 8 feet high, with a polished surface that twists in impossible curves. It's impossible to tell where the outside of the sculpture ends and the inside begins. The words Felix Klein, 1849 to 1925, are inscribed on the base. Let's reach in it. They assume the sculpture. Easier said than done. It's hard to tell where the outside of the sculpture ends and the inside begins. All right. So what they've described here is a Klein bottle. It's an impossible structure that, like, the entirety of it is both inside and outside. It's like it's got a hole that goes through the middle and then up and around and kind of forms everything else. It's easier to look at it than it is for me to describe it, especially since I don't have one in front of me. But basically, it's a Klein bottle, hence Felix Klein. Okay, let's head north from here, back to the North Arbor. You ascend the north side of the pergola. The floor of the pergola curves up and around in an inexplicable way that makes your eyes cross. Seems as if you'll be standing on your head if you went much higher. So now we're like inside the Klein bottle. Little daylight makes its way through the thick walls of Arbor Vitae. This is an intellectual game, man. All right, let's go up from here. The floor twists alarmingly as you continue your ascent. We've made it to the top of Arbor. The tangled vines and tendrils seem to writhe malignantly in the flickering light of the splinter. The air is pungent with the odor of Arbor Vitae's. Dark, leafy tunnels curve down to the north and south, and Arbor Vitae is cleaved by a silver axe. Your sense of direction is very confused. I'm sure it is. All right, there's the axe. Let's take that. You yank the axe out of the Arbor Vitae, get 1 more point. Let's take a look at that. The silver blade is still sharp. Good. Let's go south from here back to South Arbor. The floor of the pergola curves up and around in an inexplicable way that makes your eyes cross. It seems as if you'll be standing on your head if you went much higher. Little daylight makes its way through the thick walls of Arbor Vitae. Let's go down from here to the Arboretum. I think we have seen all... Oh! Nope, this is a little different. A spectacular pergola of Arbor Vitae's arches over your head like a great green Ferris wheel. Its tangled surfaces are peculiarly twisted, making it difficult to tell where the inside ends and the outside begins, like a Klein bottle. Steep leafy tunnels curve up into the pergola to the north and south. Other paths lead east and west into the surrounding hedge. An abstract sparkling sculpture stands between the tunnels. The words 5291 to 9481 Neilk Zilif are inscribed on the base. It's Felix Klein backwards now. That is definitely new. So from here we want to go west to the Arbor Vitae's. We have seen those before. Then northeast from here to the trellises. We've been here before. Then we want to go north to the bottom of the stairs. And this is where the umbrella and the bag of crumbs are. And we'll go back up a couple times to the vertex. So what we have done, because the game is very intellectual, like I said, is we have gone basically through the Klein bottle and turned the world around. And now we can put the nomen in the hole, because now the grooves are going the right way. Because we turned the world around instead of the nomen or anything like that. A long metal lever silently rises out of the floor. As it clicks to a stop, the ring around the sundial emits a brilliant twinkle of light. 5 more points. We're now up to 22. Like, we're getting there. A voice in your ear remarks, the Nomen Conquest. As opposed to the Norman Conquest. I follow that one. Is it 1066 around here? What year is it? All right, let's push the lever. As you lower the lever, you hear a loud mechanical groan below your feet. The floor lurches and stops vibrating. You feel a momentary dizziness and a brief gust of wind. Then all is still. Let's turn the ring. You grasp the edges of the brass ring and begin to turn it. An ominous vibration makes the platform tremble. Then a motion catches your eye. The sun is moving. It's arcing across the sky like a time-lapse movie, smooth and terribly silent. You let go of the ring with a cry. The sun instantly stops and the strange vibration with it. After your pulse slows, you grasp the ring again and turn it, ever so carefully, until it clicks into place at the dial's first signal. Hooray! we've done it. Let's assume we time traveled, because that's what we did. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a save here. We'll call it LP2. And we will pick up from here next time. That is going to do it for this part of Trinity. My name is Baller Scuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. I hope you laughed. Hope you learned. There was lots of learning this time, probably. And I hope to see you next time for more Trinity. Thanks for watching.